Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who loves... I can't believe it's not French. Frank, how are you today?
I can't believe it's not French.
Yeah.
Oui, oui.
It will all become clear.
Oui, oui, monsieur.
Yes, oui. We are part of the revolution, the rebellion.
Yes. Okay, I follow now. Yes, very good. Very good.
Very good. How are you today?
I'm doing great, bud. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. One could say I'm doing super because we have an additional person with us today on Beer with Geeks. It's our friend, our super friend. It's Vactor. How are you today, Vactor?
I'm doing excellent. Live long and the force be with you. I can't to talk to you guys. Woo!
That hurt me in my larynx. I don't know why. I felt it up here, maybe because the way that the camera was, it kind of looked like you were coming right in for my throat. But at the same time, I was like, oh, the stars, they're mixing. I don't know what to do.
I apologize to all of our VR listeners, our viewers who are watching us in their Apple Vision Pros. I'm sorry. I went into your jugular on that one. Sorry.
Good stuff.
It is good to have you on the show, my friend. And I would love to start off by asking you the question that we always ask each other, which is, what are you drinking?
I've got A&W Zero Sugar. This is my new go-to drink. This is the one that I love to drink. And I said, if I'm going to be on Beer with Geeks, I have to drink my favorite drink.
Nice. Root beer with geeks once again.
Again, I've decided to put cancer over obesity. I've decided that my artificial sugar is what's going to be my downfall and take me down, not sugar.
Good. Amazing. You know what? It's a pick your poison kind of world, right? So there you go. Tim, what are you enjoying today?
The poison that I am currently enjoying is a Blue Point toasted lager.
Ooh.
This comes from Frank's original particles from Patchogue. Is that how you say it? Patchogue, New York. So I'd assume it's on Long Island.
It is.
Because it is a Long Island style lager. A little toasty, kind of has like a toasted almond flavor to it.
Yep, that sounds about right. It's been a long time, but I have had a Blue Point lager a long time ago.
It's very tasty. It's so refreshing.
I don't think I've seen those in our up in New England for purchase anywhere. So that's exciting that you found them.
This was brought to me by somebody. A couple of friends of ours came over the house, and this was kind of the thanks for having us in your house gift.
Nice.
And it is delicious. So shout out to my friend Dan for bringing those over.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Not our friend Dan.
Nope.
Different Dan. Dan.
Yeah. I'm not sorry to say, because they're all great people, but I have 4 Dans off the top of my head that friends of Mike. And it's just a very popular name at a certain point in history. But Dan, you're the most special. I'm not going to qualify which one.
I was going to say, yeah. And if there's a 5th Dan, he doesn't even know that he's left out. That's the funny part.
No, because he thinks he's one of the 4. It's
right, exactly.
It's a perfect system.
Airtight.
Yeah.
Can't beat it.
Frank, what are you drinking?
I'm trying something new that I came across. I'm enjoying it in an appropriate glass for tonight's topic. Because if you're lost and afraid, then you will find me, lime after lime.
I love lime.
It is a Tuckerman Brewing lime after lime lager, brewed with fresh limes.
Nice.
And I am giving myself a pour right now to try it for the first time here on air. What could go wrong?
Oh, wow.
Be too limey is what could go wrong.
It's actually a very nice balance of lime. Yeah, it's quite. I mean, it's basically a Corona. It's a.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all. It is a craft Corona. Is how I would describe the flavor. With when you put the lime in the bottle and do the whole upside down thing, and it tastes just like that. Yeah. It's just pre-limed. It is a pre-limed Corona.
When you say you put the lime in the thing, it immediately went to the lime and the coconut.
Coconut,
You're not supposed to shake the beer all about. That's like,
That's what I also
anything about carbonated beverages. That is not the way to go.
I know. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. But
I still do that whenever I have a Corona. If there is a lime, I still do put the thumb over the opening. And
Yeah, but now I'm like very germ conscious, so I'm like gotta wash my hand before I put my thumb over the bottle.
That is totally fair. That is totally fair. That is only responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is only responsible. You don't want to be one of those seedy underbelly types who find themselves turning to a life of crime
because they didn't wash their hands.
Germs.
You're right.
Yeah.
Scoundrel.
Yeah, indeed.
Scoundrel.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that reminds me, I've got a tale to tell you. A tale of the Tales of the Underworld, Frank. Vactor. We all watched it. We all watched Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. We also watched Star Wars Andor Season 2. We're going to talk about both of them here on Beer with Geeks. Let's start with Tales of the Underworld because we're going in chronological order. Right? Also it came out before Andor did. So in our timeline and the Star Wars timeline, chronological order.
You're right. Yeah.
You're right.
Right on. Yeah. Right on. Okay, so we have like two sort of distinct stories in this series, which has been the Tales of format, typically speaking. How do you feel like this season? I'm going to call it a season. This collection,
the Tales of is the show, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And this would be sort of season 3 by that logic. How do you guys feel like this compared to the first two? In fact, I'll start by asking you, how do you feel about it versus the others?
I like this one way more than the second one, Tales of the Sith. Oh, wait, no, Tales of the Empire. Is the second one. Yeah, I like this one way more than that. It's kind of neck and neck with Tales of the Jedi because I really liked Tales of the Jedi, but I also really like this. So they're kind of like, you know what? I'm going to put Tales of the Jedi a micrometer ahead of.
I think it's really hard to beat the Dooku. In Tales of the Jedi, like the Ahsoka one was good and all, but the Dooku one was outstanding. It's hard.
And I felt like that one felt like the most essential lore wise because it was we didn't know Dooku's backstory as much. We did not we got Yaddle and we got these things that we were seeing a younger Qui-Gon. And so when I was watching that, I was like, oh man, give me more, give me lore, give me more. So and then Ahsoka, we've gotten so much from her. She's had enough time in the spotlight.
She's had a lot. She's got her own show now.
Yes. I really liked Tales of the Underworld. This was actually surprised me how much I liked it.
I'm with you there. It surprised me how much I liked it because whereas I like the Clone Wars, it is not my essential Star Wars the way that it is for other people, right? They kind of the original saga or the prequel saga is all good, but for them, Clone Wars is Star Wars. That's the bulk of it. And for me, it's the opposite. It's prequel and original trilogy, and then maybe some other stuff, and then Clone Wars. And so I don't feel like I have strong connections to Cad Bane or to Asajj Ventress the same way. Like, I even had to remind myself, like at the beginning of the Asajj story, I was like, what happened to her? Why is she here with them? And why are they sad about it? And then like all this stuff. And I had to like really dig in my brain until I remembered this. Until I remembered these unaired episodes of the Clone Wars, which then became this book, which I has just started reading actually, because those episodes made me be like, I want to know what happened in the interim here. So
remind me the title of that book for audio
Dark
listeners.
Disciple. Sorry, yes,
Dark
right.
Disciple.
I forgot where. By Christy Golden, who was a writer on Clone Wars. But anyway, it made me watching those, especially the Asajj episodes, made me go, man, I gotta watch Clone Wars again. Because now I'm way more interested. Like these small little episodes made me want to go back to this 7-season show. And I thought that was really impressive, because not that I don't like Clone Wars, but I watched it as like, I watched the 66 most essential episodes of Clone Wars. Like, I haven't even seen the whole series. And so this was like, all right, we got to start episode 1. Let's do this.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that, I thought it was really strong. Frank?
Nice. I don't know how interested your daughter is in it, but like if you're starting over, like that's a great place to onboard a kid onto some of this stuff. I know it's maybe not, some of it might not be quite, she might not be ready for yet, but
yeah, Clone Wars, if to my memory, can be quite dark in places.
It can, yeah.
And so
I'm thinking about like the Yoda episode at the beginning there, and like a couple of things that might be sort of kid friendly.
Yeah, that first season, there's like Jabba Adventures and R2D2 have their.
Oh yeah, Zero the Hutt and all that. Yeah.
It definitely. I feel like it started off more towards that lower age level, and then it kind of creeped up, and then especially by season 7, it's like,
it's not a kid, it's like not a kid show anymore. Yeah, agreed.
Frank, how did you watch Clone Wars? I mean, I'm interested. What was your Clone Wars kind of?
Journey? I mean, I watched it. I saw the movie in theaters, and then I started watching it, as it aired. The first 2 seasons I watched as they aired, and then around season 3 I kind of dropped off. And I caught up more when they got on Netflix. And then for the last 2 or 3 seasons, when the show finally ended, to get caught up before the final season dropped on Disney Plus, I just did what Tim did and sort of used the essential list of essential arcs and stuff, just to make sure I didn't miss any important story points. I didn't have time to watch everything, but I was like, let me at least go into this informed about what's happened, so I can watch the final season in full.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah. It's a little bit piecemeal, but I for Underworld, this wasn't my favorite. Of the Tales of. The Ventress story was confusing to me, because I was like, wait, but she is dead? And I'm pretty sure there is a whole, Dark Disciple was what I was thinking. I didn't know what it was called, but I was like, I'm pretty sure they told like the whole story, and it had a lot of emotional resonance and everything. So it kind of feels like a little, undercuts that a bit to bring her back to tell.
Did you watch? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you watch Bad Batch?
I no. You know what? I didn't finish Bad Batch. I didn't. Okay. Am I missing something from there?
Yes. Not to spoil it, but there is something in Bad Batch that preceded this that features Asajj.
I see.
So that was where she made her official comeback.
I see.
But yeah, it is very confusing. Actually, I put out a YouTube video talking about it, and in the comments, people were like, What's going on here? How is she back?
Yeah.
Goes to show you how many people watched Bad Batch.
Yeah. They did go into it's magic with a K, it's Night Sister magic. Don't think about it. They didn't really go into it and tell you how is she back. But I wonder if there will be a comic or another novel to go into that, or do you think this is going to be the official? All right, this is how she came back. We're not going to explore that any further.
There's always something to explore, something.
Yeah.
And then inevitably they will retcon it somewhere else and whatever else. I just saw an interview with Tony Gilroy, who's like, yeah, so there's a comic where for an origin for K2SO, and he's like, I just ignored that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like in my head, the books and the comics are always placeholders until a television show or a movie makes the official version.
That's right, and that's how Lucas dealt with it too. That was his, his opinion too. Was like, yeah, whatever they put in the comics and the novels, like I don't know what they're putting there, and I don't really. It's not real until I put it on the screen,
right?
And I think that still sort of applies. It's not real until they put it on screen.
Yeah.
I really like the Cad Bane story, though. I thought that was very, very cool. Old Western,
old Western gangster. It's like Old West, but it's also 30s gangster movie.
It's literally it is the plot of Angels with Dirty Faces.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is the plot of that movie. And obviously, it's a story that's been retold and reused and everything. So I'm not saying that's a ripoff or anything, but it is that
that's called intertextuality. Frank.
Exactly.
Many times.
Yes.
Many times. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I thought that was really a really cool retelling of that story, without James Cagney though. So lose some points for no Cagney.
Well, it would have been weird if they made him come back to life, like they made Asajj come back to life.
I thought the Cad Bane one really built on itself because at the beginning I was like, where's this going? Why am I interested? But then by the end of it, I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like I was on the edge of my seat, and to find out, like, obviously not the subtext, but like the way that they are foreshadowing what happens at the end is, oh, he's the same color as you.
Yes.
He's the same as you. So I thought that was kind of like on the nose of, okay, yeah, that's his son. But I really, like, by the end of the Cad Bane one, I was like, oh man, this is just as good as, like, I enjoyed the Asajj Ventress one all the way through from the get-go, and Bane, it was like a steady build. And then by the end, I was like, oh man, these are great. Both of these two stories together, I want kind of more from them. Because I wasn't a huge Cad Bane fan in Clone Wars, but I like him. I don't love him, but I like him.
He feels like a caricature. He doesn't feel like a real character, and I felt that especially when he became the most Cad Bane of, like, it was recognize him like all of a sudden you don't really belong in the story like this, or it just like he felt like an outsider, not just in that he's obviously now a cowboy in a metropolitan area, but he's like, even his style of speech or the acting choices that are being made was right. Yeah, exactly. This channel ain't big enough for the I was like, okay, dokie, yeah. I did like it. I just but I, like you, am like, Cad Bane is a character that exists. When he shows up, I go, hey, he looks cool, and then I kind of move on with my life.
Cad Bane's a little bit of a Boba Fett, where it's sort of like there is more hype around him than there is substance, I feel.
Except that these episodes gave him some substance.
Yes.
In which
I mean, like prior to this, but yes,
totally right. Yeah. But I think there's better substance now to him than there is to Boba Fett.
Agreed.
Yeah. Even with the stuff that Boba Fett has, like, done, and all this in all these other story forms, like now Cad Bane is kind of coming out on top. Yeah. So I was sort of mixed on it. You guys were very enthusiastic about it, sounds like. So I'm glad for you that you enjoyed the whole thing as much as you did. I agree that Tales of the Jedi is I think the best one. Would we put Tales of the Empire at the bottom of the pile?
It is for me.
So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to agree because I can't even remember what the two stories are. Like,
so one is the clone. Also, they're kind of, one is Clone Wars centric, and one is like Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Morgan
Morgan Elsbeth. Yeah,
that's the story I remember.
I was not interested in her story at all. Like when it first came out and they said it was going to be about her, I was like, oh, this would be interesting to get her backstory and why she's doing all the things she's doing in Ahsoka. And then when it happens, I'm like, that didn't really explain anything to me, and I don't really care anymore. Like that's not a compelling take on that character. The other one, the Barriss Offee tale was I thought very interesting.
That's right.
Yeah, that was really good.
And that was something from the Clone Wars that was like a cliffhanger, almost like we didn't know what, because she betrayed Ahsoka, and like there was a huge thing in Clone Wars, and then it's like, well, what happened to her? Where, like, so this was kind of like the bigger story of her. I thought that was the gem of Tales of the Empire to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that ranking. I think for the 3 shows.
Yeah, if I really had to think, I would separate the stories out more than the shows. That's it, because I think each one has a really strong story and a slightly weaker story, like, every time. And so,
it would have been cool if they just called it Star Wars Tales, and then you have each episode by episode, and then it's okay. We're on the 3rd season of Star Wars Tales. That would have been cool.
Like Tales of the Galaxy, Star Wars Tales of whatever, like
right.
And yeah, I agree. And then have like season 1, season 2, season 3, and have the separate stories, and we could evaluate them on their own that way.
I wonder if I think it's a stronger marketing thing to know what you're getting into, and they're kind of thematically linked because it's you're watching Jedi or Underworld or Empire or whatever. I would assume Tales of the Rebels are coming next,
right? Yeah, so Tales of the Rebellion, Tales of
I was gonna say, where are they gonna go next? That's
right,
because at the end of each one, it's always like, are they gonna do another one? Like, I don't know if we've heard any announcements or anything of, okay, there's gonna be the next season. And it's always around May the 4th.
It's always around May the 4th.
It's just like a little surprise every time. I'm like, oh, this show is still going. That's nice.
And it's like, they're working on it, because it's like animation takes so long to produce. So they know they don't want to tell us in advance. So I'll be interested to see if we get Tales of the Rebels. I still want Tales of the Sith. Give me some more Sith background, some more Sith lore. That's what I want.
I feel like when they do that, they start backing themselves into a corner, and they really worry about, like, well, if I do it here, then we won't be able to do it somewhere else. And they're always concerned about that somewhere else, unless it's even in book and comic forms. Like when they decide to okay, we're telling this story now, we're post Return of the Jedi as a comic. They've decided that's how we're going to continue the story of Han, Luke, and Leia is in comic form. And so, that's a decision that they have made that I don't agree with, but it's a decision.
Yeah.
But I think that when you said something like the Sith are like a convenient story point right now. Like they're when we need them to do something, it's available. But as soon as they start hammering it down in a real show or then they're beholden to their own history, which backs them, which is why Legends became Legends, because it got too convoluted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, let's just clear this stuff off the desk into a drawer, and a lot easier that way. Yeah. If they do a Tales of the Rebels, it could be cool to see a Cassian Andor arc.
Ooh.
Yeah, because there's a lot of unfilled space there.
I mean, because we can sort of maybe segue into Andor here, but as we I love this shirt, Vactor. As we skipped ahead a year every between every arc. There's lots of stories to tell in between there. There's lots. I mean, you could just do a Gorman. There's more stuff to tell about Gorman. There's more stuff to tell about all. This season, I think they really. I'm not sure if it was better than season 1, but it sure was phenomenal and at a minimum, I think everyone can agree it was up to the same level of quality, the same standards, and in some ways maybe better. I really like this season a lot.
I have a huge, I don't know how to say this, but there's because of Andor now, I have anxiety. I have a huge anxiety now because the bar has been raised so high. I don't know if Star Wars can ever get back to this level where Andor is now, where Andor has raised Star Wars up to the level of quality. I don't know if they will ever make a movie as good as Andor or another TV show as good as Andor. I hope they do, but I don't know how they can do it. And also, I love this show so much that I'm also hesitant. I know that they can do it. It can be done. It's not like we've only gotten Ahsoka season 1 or we've only gotten Book of Boba Fett. Like, I know that there can be a good Star Wars show.
Right.
And so now that's all I want. I don't want any more Book of Boba Fett's. So
Yeah,
it's like
Ahsoka season 2 better be really good, right? Like,
I don't think Lucasfilm wants any more Book of Boba Fett's either.
well, why did they make it? Why did they? I don't understand that. The decision to say, "Oh, this is what they want. They want a Boba Fett show. They want to see him crawl out of the Starlight Pit." Like, what? Who wanted that? What focus group told them this?
People online told them that. Years and years of people loving Boba Fett told them that. I don't blame them.
You don't know what you want, people.
No, I don't blame them for making Book of Boba Fett. I blame them for turning a good villain into a redemption arc is all well and fine, but I don't like some characters just let them be evil. That's fine.
Yes.
yeah,
Like you wanted it to be the Godfather and you didn't do that.
right.
So
I'm
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're not here to talk about that mediocre show.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry I brought it up, but it was just like the easy fruit.
No,
to
it's
pick.
true.
Like, what is bad? Like,
Right.
I'm really hopeful. I want to give Andor its praises and say, hey guys, this is a great show. But I'm also like in my mind looking ahead to like, how do they do this again? How?
I think it's a little lightning in a bottle. Truthfully, it just so happens that the trouble they got into making Rogue One helped propel them towards Andor. It just because if they didn't get into trouble making Rogue One, they wouldn't have had Tony Gilroy, who wouldn't have come in and saved Rogue One. People wouldn't have responded as well to it, and then we wouldn't have gotten Andor season 1, and then we wouldn't have gotten Andor season 2, which I do think is better than the first season. I think I liked the segmented like 1 year in the life idea because truthfully there's a lot of downtime in your life, from year to year. So even just from a realism perspective, usually 365 days out of the year, probably about 330 of them are pretty insignificant. So you generally
a lot of filler days,
a lot of filler. Yep. If I'm the Truman Show, people are just watching mostly filler. It's just
I feel like there's I feel like there's pros and cons to that because there is an alternate universe where we got 5 seasons of Andor. That was like the original plan.
Yes.
And there would have been much more. Maybe you guys are kind of actually. I would be interested to get your guys' take on filler episodes in general because if you think about like Star Trek and Dragon Ball Z is another one. Like the filler episodes are where you got the character development, you got to know them, and by the end you're like, oh man, I'm glad I spent so much time with them. So 5 seasons of Andor, I would like to see that alternate take to see like what we would have gotten. But then I'm also happy with what we got because it forced a restraint. And so it wasn't like, and I think a lot of great art comes from the restraints. Like you can even look at the original 4, 5, and 6, and especially 4, like what went wrong, and Jaws is another one. It's like the restraints and the limitations are where you get the creativity of, oh, how do I fix this problem? So with Andor, I feel like by getting it down to these 3 chunks, like the 3 episode arcs and then 4 arcs, and then it's like, oh, okay, and that fits into the 4 years between Andor season 1 and Rogue One. That kind of focused Tony Gilroy, and so it's like, oh, this is now I see my way in, like I see my path forward because I've seen he has done like I must have listened to 10 podcasts and YouTube talk shows. He's been on so many things. He's promoting this like crazy, and he's been talking about over and over again. Like he said, COVID saved this show.
Yeah.
Because it was like he said he didn't know what he was in for when he first signed up. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna direct every episode and I'm gonna write every episode, I'm gonna do all this. And then he's like, when I got in there and I realized, oh wait a minute, it's a lot more work than I thought it was. And then COVID, he said, forced him to pull back and say, oh, I need to kind of focus and get everything in a row. So I think Tim is 100% correct. Like all these circumstances, like these happy accidents, kind of led to what we got, and so I'm kind of grateful for what we did get.
Yeah, it really is one of those, like, a bunch of happy accidents led to an amazing output. I'm also very interested in that, like what that 5-season version of the show would have looked like. I'm sure the story would have, like, it wouldn't have been the story we saw play out in season 2 probably would not have just been the, like, let's follow the Gorman thing through to, like, it probably, that would have been one of the seasons, and
correct.
Maybe the Mon Mothma's daughter wedding storyline would have been,
stealing the new TIE interceptor would have been its own the infiltration, then the stealing, then the thing. But I really liked the scope down version because Star Wars always throws you into the middle. It's in media res every time, and so every episode arc was in media res. Here you go, you're in the middle of it, you're in the middle of it. But I do agree about filler episodes, and that there are character moments and character like demises even that don't hold as much weight to you because you don't spend that much time with them. Technically you have spent years with them between Andor season 1 and 2, and especially 2 with 4 years occurring, or 4 years occurring, but I still don't really know them very well apart from broad character strokes. And so I think that filler would have done me a service for an emotional connection, but that's really, truthfully, that's kind of small potatoes for what I was witnessing. It's not the type of story they were telling, and so I wasn't really like, oh man, but does Cassian like the color blue? I'll never know, like who cares? Yeah.
Filler episodes are much less a thing since we left the world of 22 episode seasons, right? Like that's just
right.
There's not as much need to fill. I agree. I very strongly agree. Like that is where a lot of character development happens. That's where, with lots of shows from that era, I always felt like, yeah, sure, there are skippable episodes, but you're gonna miss, some important reveal that happens at the very end of this episode, or some great character moments or whatever. Like I always felt like those things were worth, in really great shows that I loved, were worth.
You could say Smallville. We know you're thinking Smallville.
definitely one of them. Yeah. So yeah, I on the one hand, miss that format, but on the other hand, I do like, because let's face it, in a movie you have very little screen time with a character too, but you still have the time to like get invested in them and sort of get on board or not with their story. And it's one of those creative constraints you're talking about, where it's like having fewer episodes, less time to tell the story, and forces you to be more economical and to get that point across, to get the audience invested with less screen time. And I think that they definitely did that here. Some of the characters obviously we knew from season 1, but some we didn't, and I think that they did really well in telling those stories. Gosh, we could go so many different we could go character by character. I feel like obviously Cassian is the through line. We got a little bit of like the Force this season with Cassian, with the Force fortune teller. Yeah. What'd you guys think?
I really like that because it puts up that debate of determinism versus free will, fate. What is Cassian's path? Is he always destined to be that guy? Is it the Force that's guiding him, or is it his choices that he's making and his circumstances? So I like having that. And I also listened to one of those Tony Gilroy episodes. He was like, yeah, I don't really like Star Wars that much. Like, I don't, he's like, I'm not watching the shows or the movies. So I had to throw in the Force somewhere. Like, I had to put it in. So it's in there if you like it. Yeah. But I wasn't really like, that wasn't my interest of the story. And you could tell, like, he's into history, revolution, like all the stuff that's in the background of this show. That's what he wanted to tell. And it was almost like his Trojan horse of using Star Wars to be like, here's my revolution story. With the Andor dressings on top of it.
That's right.
Two things there that I want to talk about. So one, isn't it funny that a lot of times people like, boo, they don't like this source material, they shouldn't be working on it, but for some reason he's like, he doesn't like it. Isn't that so charming and cute and wonderful?
When it's good, they're like, yeah, this is great. Yeah.
You don't have to like it, it's okay. Yeah. I just love that for him so much.
I think it works because he's telling a story about someone in that universe, right, who is not as connected to those elements that Tony doesn't care about.
100% works. And I actually, Tim, what was your second?
So my part two to that is that I think some of the faults of Star Wars, modern Star Wars, is that it's too referential to Star Wars. They're not looking at outside influences, like, and then creating something using Star Wars as a lens, like George did. They're just using Star Wars as a lens and repeating itself, right? See the sequel trilogy, see Book of Boba Fett, see, like, this is just a snake eating its own tail version of Star Wars. What is so refreshing about Andor is that it is the story of genocide. It is the story of political corruption. It is the story of rebellion. It is the story of hope. And Star Wars happens to be the setting of that story. And so that's why it's so strong, because that's what makes Star Wars in of itself strong in the first place. Oh, it's just a samurai story, but it's also Star Wars. Or it's the hero's journey, but it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's a Western, but it's Star Wars. Like, whatever. That's why the first season of The Mandalorian is so strong, because it's a Western. It just happens to be Star Wars.
Yes.
Once it starts going into itself too much, see Ahsoka season 1 for further details, then you're creating something that is Star Wars, but it's just a really diluted version of it.
It's like Star Wars for Star Wars sake, you know, rather than Star Wars being the lens or the tool that you use. I mean, yeah, I think that's Ahsoka's actually, I hadn't even thought of that, but that's a perfect example of where going too deep in Star Wars lore actually doesn't give you the best finished product.
No, it doesn't. It's very Dark Knight in its own way, right? You know, like, whether Batman's in the suit or not, it's still a good movie. Like, he could just be a dude in a ski mask, and it could be the same movie, and it would still be a really good movie. It just happens to have Batman in it because, again, Nolan's not a huge fan of the source material. But he likes the story he can tell with that particular character and that lens. Boom, you got yourself a good story.
Yep.
Man, I really hope, I know we're not talking about Ahsoka, but I really hope season 2 is able to retroactively lift up season 1, because there's elements, like there's bits and pieces of season 1 that I'm like, oh man, that'll be interesting. And the World Between Worlds and the Mortis gods, like there's stuff in the background that I'm like, they didn't really touch on it, or they didn't really go into detail. And then how does the Ahsoka story? Oh man, I'm already in my mind. I'm letting myself down. Like, I'm already being disappointed because I'm like, where does this show push Ahsoka into the Filoni movie, whatever's coming with Thrawn, and there's like a war and everything. So I hope there's a reason for it, because when Ahsoka was first announced at the first season, I was like, oh, they must have a specific reason for telling this story. Same with Book of Boba Fett. I was like, they must have a specific thing that is interesting to everybody, and we're going to want to see this. And after Ahsoka, I was like, that season did not paint any picture for me. It did not, like, everything I thought they were trying to accomplish with giving her a Padawan and trying to have Sabine become a Jedi and getting Ezra back. And it was like, none of that stuff to me at the end of the day is interesting. Now, maybe all that is just setting up pieces on the board. And then when we get season 2 or when we get this movie, then they use them and it's like, oh, okay, that was a good, at the end of the day, that was a complete story, right? I'm hoping that's the reason, but at where we're at now, where we stand in the middle between seasons 1 and 2, I don't think it's going anywhere.
If there's one thing that Star Wars is very good at doing, it's retroactively making things from before more important.
Well, Clone Wars made Clone Wars made the prequels more important. Like a lot of the stuff that is told in the Clone Wars, I'm like, oh man, this is great. And Lucas was, I see where he was going with all of these things. Whereas when I had just watched the prequels, I was like, I don't know the prequels to me have risen as the years have gone on. When they first came out, I was not as high on the prequels as I am now.
Revenge of the Sith especially, right? Like, because now you have all this context of everything that happened leading into this story.
When you watch Revenge of the Sith the first time, you're like, wow, he fell fast.
Yeah, exactly. I went to see it in theaters, when it was re-released recently, and I was thinking that too. I was remembering how I felt watching it 20 years ago in the theater the first time, and feeling, even though I was really excited and caught up in the spirit of it, I was sort of like, does feel like he turned kind of fast. Whatever, it's still great. I'm still enjoying this. This is so great. But it does feel like it was this nagging feeling that maybe that was a little fast. But yes, now, like with Clone Wars under your belt, it is like, okay, but there is more. I have this context. Yeah, a lot of history context that fleshes it out. So yeah,
He's been being like, I don't trust him. I'm like, well, that's rude.
Yeah, just buzz, like just buzz.
Yeah, but there's like 7 seasons of Clone Wars later. You're like, well, I can kind of understand why
he's got a point there.
He's kind of untrustworthy. He's a great guy, but he definitely just doesn't do what you want him to do ever. So
yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah, for you to feel that way. Yeah, but anyway, but Andor's also a really good example of like making Star Wars better, because, like the New Hope scroll is, the rebellion has just won its first big victory against the Empire, the first one. And so to watch like defeat after defeat after defeat, like but not in the cartoony Rebels kind of way, in a like a real, my God, I've seen this happen in real life kind of way, that makes their victory at Scarif and then the Death Star so much more impactful. The Death Star more than anything, truthfully, because the Death Star is just a big old plot device, right, in the first Star Wars, and like the death of Alderaan means absolutely nothing.
Sure.
Even to Leia, Luke is more upset about the death of Obi-Wan than Leia is about the destruction of the Empire planet. Like consistently. And so for them to go back into Rogue One and build the Death Star up a little bit more, and then whatever, but then to make it basically the final solution, like, which I thought was fascinating. Like, if you're talking about genocide, and the Empire are Nazis, obviously they always have been. It's just that's the easy.
They're literally called stormtroopers,
right? The name is right in there. This is the same. But I think that like this was the first time that it not hit me that they were Nazis, but like the first time that the Death Star is like, wow, no, yeah, that's when you really when you put it as realistic as Star Wars can give you, as real world as it can give you, like, yeah, that's not just fun space stuff anymore. Like, I don't want that Lego set anymore. That's like, yeah, that's really awful. And I that's what I think the show did it the strongest, from the rebel side and from the villain side. Yeah.
I think this show does the same job that Clone Wars did. I liked Rogue One before. I think Andor elevates Rogue One, and I think when watching it again, as Tim was telling me, he watched it right after Andor. You watched Rogue One again. I did the opposite. I watched Rogue One first, and then season 2 of Andor, and I think it just elevates it I still don't think Rogue One is a great movie, but I like it a lot. There's a lot of elements to it, and I was like, man, Andor kind of tightens some things up for me with Rogue One. So a great point of Star Wars always has this history of certain things elevating previous things that came before.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Gosh, there's so many. Luthen and Clea. Let's talk about their story in this season. Clea having to. They really in the last couple episodes, or was it even the last episode, seeing their whole relationship, the backstory of their relationship and how he found her and all of that, added so much. It would have been nice to have seen that sooner, but to see the not even parallels, but just to sort of see the flashbacks to her childhood and now what she has to, the decision she has to make and the things she has to do. I mean, we're talking spoilers at this point. Like the fact that she has to essentially go in there and kill him, is so resonant and so heavy and so like I thought was beautifully done to see the things that he's trying to stop her from needing to kill. Like he doesn't let her blow up those bridges on what I assume was Naboo.
It was definitely Naboo.
Yeah. And I got the sense that it was like, I need you to be a fighter. I need you to be able to do this to survive, but you're still a kid, and I want to not make you do that unless it's necessary. And then that sort of culminating in like she has to turn the proverbial dagger on him to fulfill his wishes and to protect the rebellion. It was just so like, ooh, it was heavy and it was like kind of beautiful.
In a lot of ways, there's a weird parallel to Luke and Obi-Wan in their character. Luke loses his aunt and uncle to the Empire. Obi-Wan in some ways kind of takes him in, and Luke is like, all right, I want to learn to be a Jedi.
Right.
And so like he is just a kid, sort of. I don't know. Luke's age is really undetermined, but
well, it's 20 years after episode 3, so
yeah. So he's I guess that's right. Yeah,
he's
so
around
20.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not really a kid, but he definitely is sheltered. And so for Obi-Wan to be like, yep, okay, I'm gonna send this kid to do some terrible things. Here we go. And you're gonna kill thousands of people in about 2 hours. Just
yeah.
Be ready for it. And you'll be fine. Don't worry. You're not gonna think about it at all.
It's fine.
It's fine. But then you have Luthen and Clea, who also is like this older mentor, like the older mentor. I'm going to take you in, and he's deliberately stops her from doing those things. Where Obi-Wan really like pushes Luke to do them.
Hey, I know that you think that he's your dad. You have to kill him. You have to kill him. I don't care. You have to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you have to. Sorry.
Yeah.
You blew up the Death Star. That should have sanitized you to all like tons of deaths. You should be
fine, right? What's one?
And so, but also there's this
What if I told you he killed your mom?
But there's also this like Obi-Wan sacrifices himself, right, to Darth Vader in A New Hope, and here's Luthen also sacrificing himself. And I think I sent this article to Vactor. I don't know if I sent it to you, Frank, but like how this is going to Bix and Andor, but she does the opposite of Padme and Anakin, where she she's you need to be in this. I'm going to go away. I'm making the unselfish decision here. And so, but that's also Luthen and Clea, right? Like I'm making the unselfish decision. I'm not going to try to get you out of here.
Yeah.
And so all of that, I just think that there's a great nobility, like juxtaposed with their down and dirty rebellion style, which is like I like Andor like kind of blows up at Bail and Moth and Mon and everybody else, where he's like, you wouldn't be here except for the things that Luthen did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like you can sit on your laurels or in your honor and you're this, but you wouldn't be here without him. And so like this is kind of like elevation upwards from that, though. There's like Luthen did all the grunt work, or it did all the dirty work, so they could sit on the dirty work So then like people like Luke and Leia wouldn't have to get dirty at all, right? Or as far as films go,
Right.
like there's this kind of like they carried the crosses so other people wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really, because you could easily be like, they're gross people, or they're not.
Well, look at how shocked Mon Mothma was when Andor, shot her driver and stuff. She's like, "Oh my goodness, you've just killed someone." He's like, "Yeah, I do this. It's Tuesday. Like, what? Yeah, like this is rebellion. What do you want? Like this? It's not all. We don't all sit in our Senate chambers in our robes. Like some of us have to get our hands dirty."
Yep.
And the juxtaposition there of her just being so like death, is, and when she is helping to help to make this revolution happen, but she's so removed from it that she is shocked by it still.
I am currently reading Reign of the Empire, which is a book for early Empire. So like the big swing of the book is like welcoming the separatist planets back into the Empire. It's like really early days, but it's from the perspective of Bail and Mon and an original character and a little bit of Saw, a little bit of Saw Gerrera. But there's a lot of good Mon character building in here as to like with getting her hands dirty and not dirty, and the kind of sacrifices she makes in being a senator, as opposed, it's great because it just builds to her arc here, where she has to cope in the show, where she has to cope with putting a childhood friend to death.
Yes.
Like condemning him to death for the sake of the rebellion, sacrificing her daughter.
I was going to say, that's a big one.
For the sake of the rebellion. And like there's like tons and tons of stuff that, like, even though she's not getting her hands dirty by carrying a blaster, she's imploding her entire life.
Totally.
And the people around her, and still has blood on her hands, even if she's not the one doing it. And so she's just not ever been confronted with the death in front of her face.
Exactly.
And so, so I just think that the two sides of how to rebel are fascinating here.
That was also one of the great things about this season. Man, there's so many things about this season. Seeing the rebellion on that planet, which turned out to be Yavin, and you see those like knuckleheads arguing amongst themselves, and you're like, man, how does the rebellion ever get to a functioning state that we see it in episode 4, when these guys are like, they can't even put their feet in front of their face? Like, that is so interesting to me, because that's not something I thought about. I guess just growing up, I'm always like, oh, the rebellion was always from day one, they were all ready to go against the Empire, but all the infighting and the cells of the different rebellion. Now, we saw in Clone Wars. We saw him as a young man. We see what he loses, his sister, and what causes him to be a revolutionary. But that was really the only division, I think, that we've seen up to this point. I may have missed a novel that may have said something about it, but seeing it front and center here, where the rebellion, that's kind of the spine of this season, is kind of like putting the rebellion together. And how does that function? How do you get Mon in there? How do you get the leadership in place? How do you get the right people? And this is kind of where I would have liked 5 seasons. I would have liked to have seen more of Saw, more of these other factions that in between the years, like we're skipping ahead. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I wanted to go back. Can you pause and go back to that? I wanted to see more of that. I thought that would have been interesting.
Tales of the Rebellion coming May the 4th.
I do think that there is a little bit with the skipping around or the jumping a year sometimes. Like there was an arc that ended with one of the rebels, whose name I can't remember, Cassian's friend, like, who is like inhaling the tibia gas.
Wilman.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like the next episode, he's fine. He's
right.
just there.
That I wanted more. Yeah.
I wanted more from that. Yeah.
Right. So I understand that it's more like to see what Saw is doing. So then, like, by the time you get to Rogue One and you see him grab the mask and inhale, and you're like, oh, now I know what you're doing. I just thought you had a bad lung. but
Yes,
now
yes,
like you're
yes.
actually addicted to the gas. That's
Yes.
like that's good. I've sent to both of you, but I'm telling you, I have been laughing literally since the episode came out with Saw, we know you're on Jeddah. You have no idea where I am.
Yeah.
Can't stop laughing at that. Not because it was stupid, because it was just incredible. It just
Yes.
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
big
that
like
was
my
great.
girlfriend lives in Canada vibes. It's like, come on, come on, buddy,
Oh,
buddy.
so good. I will say something
was
about
great.
Saw, which I love. We talked about Yavin 4 obviously being, but like I haven't seen much talk about this online. Maybe people didn't pick it up, but Saw's base in like the tibia gas thing is the resistance base in the Force Awakens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's the same. Like it's the same place in Ireland and everything.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
pretty sure they showed
100%.
because they mentioned somewhere that was an old rebellion base, but I
Yes.
kind of love that it was like Saw's rebellion. Like that was that's pretty fun.
That's a nice touch. I didn't pick up on that. That's awesome.
Yeah. They have some great connections. Dakar, DQAR is the name of the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Plan.
yeah, that is great to see that. I actually just watched episode 7 and 8 in the last week. And so I was like, oh, hey, that's where Saul was. That's where he was huffing that gas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a great episode. Seeing him turn on that guy, like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill Wilmon, and then he just shoots that guy in the head. I actually would have liked to have seen some more Saw because I think Forrest Whitaker is a great actor and what he brings to that. I just wanted to see more of him.
I actually liked the lack of Saw, because he's an outsider in the rebellion, and he's like, you have no idea where I am. Like, I feel like that's kind of like his running shtick in some way. So I kind of like that I'm not inside his head. I'm the same way, but I guess like he does appear like he's also in Clone Wars. He's in Rebels. He's in what are the Star Wars video games?
Yes, Jedi Survivor. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's two. What's the first one?
Outlaw? No, not Out. I'm sorry, that's the latest one. Let me look it up. Yeah, Survivor.
Survivor's the second one. What's the first one?
Fallen Order. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, he's in Fallen Order. I didn't play Survivor, so I
like
the system that I don't have the system that I can play it on. So
I will say, and I say this to a lot of people who don't play a lot of games, has been so great for me to watch the story of games on YouTube. I've gone through the entire Mortal Kombat series with my wife on YouTube, and she loves the story, but she doesn't like fighting games and she doesn't like playing it, but she loves like, oh, Raiden did this and Johnny Cage did this. Like, it's just like watching a TV show or a movie for her. I will say the Spider-Man games are great like that. And then the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor are great just to watch them as a narrative unfold. So if you have a chance,
yeah, I'm going to do that with Survivor actually, because there's even a character in Reign of the Empire that I think he has the same name as a character in Jedi Survivor, but it's a different character, and it was throwing me because it was throwing me off for a long time because I hadn't played the game. I was like, is it the same person? Doesn't feel like I don't know, but I didn't play the game, and now I feel like I have FOMO.
Huh?
So
yes.
So,
also, there's some High Republic stuff that ties into that. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's some good High Republic stuff in Jedi Survivor if you ever get a chance.
Nice.
But I talked about kind of the factions being splintered and that being like a baseline for this season. But I think as I look back on it for season 2, I don't even know. I guess there's like an alternate reality where this show is not called Andor, it's called Luthen.
Dedra. No.
Well, that was another that storyline, and that there's so much stuff with her and Cyril, man. Turn the lights off. Like that, there's so much with her and the mom. Anyways,
if we did do 5 seasons, there'd be an entire season of the mom
yes. Which
Jedra and the mom fighting over who gets to control Cyril.
I'm waiting. Tales of the Moms. That's the one I want next.
yes. I want to see that.
That's the
It
one I
was
want.
man. It was dang. It kind of tore me apart when I seeing her crying at the end, like when she knew Cyril was gone. At the end of that, that was crazy. But Luthen's story to me took center stage at like when you get to that last episode, and like Frank brought up, seeing Andor kind of, hey, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Like this is Luthen, and you're seeing his children. Like Luthen is the tree, and all these branches that he set up. You're seeing, man, yeah, it really is like Luthen is low key, like the guy that set up like Andor. He has a thing in season 1 where he's like, and I think it's actually in season 2 as well, where he's like, oh, I'm teaching you how to be a leader. Like I'm trying to get you to be the leader. But I still, even at the end of this season, I feel like Andor is a good weapon to be utilized, and like he's the sniper that you send to go on the mission. But I don't think he's the leader. I don't think he's the general. And so Luthen he feels that role. And I think for the rebellion overall, this season, when I eventually rewatch this, because man, I am definitely gonna rewatch this season multiple times. I'm really gonna be paying attention to all of the Luthen aspects, and that flip of him. Man, I wish we had gotten more of his backstory. But when we saw him in the flashback, and it's revealed that his name is Lear, and that's Rail backwards.
Rail, yeah.
It's like, man, Tony Gilroy, you did it. You did it. There's so many connections that tie it into play. Now, I've been seeing online some things about King Lear and that storyline.
Yep.
Can you guys give me some background? I haven't gone further into the research of King Lear, and I'm not as familiar with Shakespeare. Do you have some information that you could give to me?
I'm going to let the English lit teacher take this one.
So anyway, here I am. King Lear.
Teach us.
So,
teach me. I'm Dr. Strange.
The Tragedy of King Lear, Act 1, Scene 1, Kent, Gloucester, and Edmund. Kent. I thought the king was more affected, the Duke of Albany than Cornwall, Gloucester. Did it always seem to us? But now with the division of the kingdom, it appears not which of the dukes he values most. For qualities are so weighed that curiosity is neither can make the choice of either's moiety. Kent. Is not this your son, my lord? Anyway, I won't do that for more than that because it already went on way too long. So Lear's story is this guy, the King Lear rules his kingdom, and he's old. And so he's trying to decide whom to give his kingdom to. So if you look at it in terms of like the rebellion, like, like whom becomes the leader once Luthen dies, right? Is it Clea? Is it Cassian? Is it Cyril? I don't know. Like
another one, Mon's cousin.
Right, or is it Mon? Yeah, I guess that would be the logical one, right? And so like I think so. If you look at it from there, all of Lear's all of his children, all of his daughters vie for the kingdom in particular ways to try to be like, oh no, we love you, Dad, no, and this, and then they talk about it behind his back, and the other one is very upfront, be like, you suck, you're terrible, it's all terrible. But basically what Lear does, he's not able to actually give his power away. He's incapable. He wants to hold on to it too badly. And that is in turn what ends up destroying him. Spoilers for a 400-year-old play. That's kind of what his downfall is, that he just doesn't he can't actually let go, even though he says like, I'm old and tired and it's time for me to let go, and then he doesn't. And in some ways that's Luthen, right? He just can't give up the fight. He just can't give that kingdom away, which is what ultimately gets him killed. Like Clay is like, I'll go, I'll be faster, I'll do the thing, and he's like, no, I'm going to do it, because he has to be the guy in some ways. But in doing so, it almost screws everybody over, right? Because he doesn't destroy the whole machine. He doesn't get rid of everything. He has to stab himself to escape in some particular way.
The most inefficient means of
Yeah, a gut wound, man. What are you doing? That's hours of death.
I'll say this. I thought it was
Don't you
very
die.
the whole scene leading up to that where he says like there's only two things in this gallery that aren't real.
Yeah.
Those two things are the two
Yes.
of them, right?
Yes.
And
That was great. Yes.
and when she's like, "Oh, is that dagger real?" He goes, "We'll find out. We'll find out when I stab myself if it works." Like that's I loved that. I really loved that.
Yeah. To finish up the Lear thing, the other side with Lear is that the Duke of pretty sure it's the Duke of Gloucester. He basically loses his identity and becomes one of the poor. And and they all think that it's madness and whatever, but he learns about like living on the other side and what actual power is like and where it comes from and everything like that. And you can also you can also see that in Mon a little bit. You can see hints of it in Cassian through season 1 and 2. You can see hints of that it's mostly Mon. I'm trying to think of anybody else.
That's really good for her.
Yeah. There's like it's obvious Lear, I guess, is the way which is great because Shakespeare's everywhere. It's just you can't help it. I don't care if you liked him in high school or not. Like Andor, you like Shakespeare. Sorry, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was great. And then also I think looking back on it, the theme of this season is sacrifice and what does it take? What are you willing to sacrifice? And Luthen even set it up in that first season when he has that great speech when he's talking to Lonnie and he's like, my sacrifice is everything. I've burned for someone else's future, like a sunrise I'll never see. Like all of those things are set up in this next season. And he has some great monologues and speeches in the second season as well. But what are you willing to sacrifice? And how is it you're leaving this place a better, like your offspring are going to have a better tomorrow. And we even see that in Bix in that final shot when she's holding Andor's kid. I saw some people say, "Oh, it's a boy because he's wearing blue. That's why he's a boy." And it's like, it could be either one.
It's a galaxy far, far away. Like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure our arbitrary coloring system from the 1950s does not apply to them.
Yeah. So Cassian having a child that he'll never meet. And man, there's gonna be some great story told. At some point in the future, somebody's gonna tell the story of Andor Jr. or the daughter of Andor, whatever it is. Like that story is gonna be great to come out.
I actually will say I don't want that because I think part of what Cassian was fighting for is for people not to have to live that life. And so I think the ultimate victory would be for Bix and their child to just live a normal existence free of strife and from the Empire, from the rebellion, from anything, and to just live because that's why she left. Right. She left so he could make that reality, or he could make that dream a reality. And I don't want his child to be like, well, my dad was in it, and so I'm in it too, because that would actually lessens the sacrifice that he doesn't even know about.
Right.
Counterpoint: that kid is Poe Dameron. No, I'm kidding.
Which I've seen online, people putting like they put a picture of Poe in the middle, and then they put like Cassian and Bix on the sides. But I guess we know that there's going to continue even after. I mean, we see the Empire being built up, but even after that, through 4, 5, and 6, and then even after 6, the galaxy is still not a good place to be in. Like there's still the First Order rises, and there's a cyclical nature to a lot of the evil in the galaxy. So yeah, I see that side of it, not wanting to make that sacrifice feel like it's lessened, but I guess we already know that there's still going to be fighting in the galaxy. So I'm sure someone is going to tell that story. But it is nice to exist right now and think of it as a happy and hopeful future for that child.
Well,
Actually,
go
ahead.
No, I was going to say this wasn't planned, and I know it wasn't because the sequels weren't planned, and you can tell. But, like, I do think that there is actually something quite nice about watching like all of this work for the rebellion, like that the rebellion has put in and does and work, and then the New Republic and whatever else, and then the new First Order comes in and tears it down, but it doesn't tear it down for a long time. Like it actually is a really small amount of time in which the First Order is like, we're winning. It's like you're winning for like a year, and then they're back, baby, and then like and then so I think like I know that's not on purpose, but it is definitely like if you put it all together from Phantom Menace upward, what you're really saying is that like tyranny, even though it returns, what they built was so strong that it couldn't actually be toppled for a long time.
I at the end, when Dedra's boss, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Is it Partagaz?
Partagaz, thank you.
Yeah.
When he's listening to that manifesto, right, about how oppression is unnatural and that the freedom will always win, and that was so what a great sort of culmination for all of this. Like, and I think that speaks to what you're saying, Tim. Like you can only keep people down for so long because like the natural state of people is to be free. And so like you only have the First Order for that year or whatever, because you can only do it for so long. Sure, the Empire did it for 20 years, 20 something years, but like still temporary. And it's like playing whack-a-mole trying to keep the rebellion down completely. Eventually enough people will band together where they will take it down. And I just love that as one of the parting thoughts of the show.
Yeah, that was great. Actually, what did you guys think about the setup for Rogue One? Because they had to kind of, just like with with the prequels, like, okay, we have to make it fit into what already came before. Did you think they were successful sliding right into Rogue One?
I haven't watched Rogue One like right up against this yet, which I want to rewatch the final episode and then go into Rogue One to get a better sense of that. As far as my memory goes, I feel like it's actually quite a good setup, but that's purely based on memory of the last time I watched Rogue One was probably a year or two ago.
Yes.
So
there's two things, Tim, I want to get your thoughts on. K2SO.
Yeah.
And then, which Alan Tudyk, one of my favorite actors, loved him in this, like getting a chance to revisit K2SO. So K2SO, and I'm talking about the setup for him and then how he appears in Rogue One. And then the Bix, like Cassian, Jyn Erso, Bix, like I was wondering, like, how are they going to fit in? Because to me, he comes across as Jyn Erso. There's a romance between them, and there's nothing else. I've also seen some people say, "Oh no, it's just like a friendship. It's just a really close friendship." And then at the end, they hug each other because they don't want to be alone, not because there's a romance there. What did you think, Tim?
Well, I did watch Rogue One immediately after. I mean, it took a couple days to watch, but I finished the last episode of Andor, and then I immediately started Rogue One to kind of launch myself into that to make sure that I would actually watch it. I think it does sync up. It does feel a little bit, obviously not intentional, but it does, because the show is Cassian and Mon centric, so then like when you shift to Rogue One and it's Jyn Erso centric, you're like, well, this feels like Cousin Fred season 5 coming in to change the show a little bit. It felt a little odd that way. So, and then like obviously like you're being introduced to Cassian, and so some of it feels a little clunky and awkward that way. You're like, oh, now I am intimately aware of who you are, but now I feel like I'm being introduced to you all over again. So that all of that is a little strange. but otherwise it syncs. It syncs really well. I never really got the Andor Jin relationship, like romance thing. The movie's not a romance. They're barely synced together, and half of it they're at odds with each other because he's trying to assassinate her father. Like, so like, and so I think when people have not gone through something heavily traumatic, they have a really hard time understanding how people are linked up in moments of crisis and trauma. If you've never experienced anything close to that, then you have no idea. Even you're reading into an emotion that's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really about them connecting as people uh, over a shared value because they're they're rogue, they're isolated from the rest of the rebellion, and so they really only have each other. And Cassian is Jin's link into that world. Her father just died almost by his hand, and so like there's trauma for her, there's trauma from her past. He obviously has trauma, see seasons 1 and 2 of Andor. And so that, and then like when the giant wave of Death Star destruction is coming at them, like of course they're gonna hug, they're about to die, they know they're about to die, but at the last moment they're gonna be like, no, and, like, get away from me. There's like
Sure.
the Empire is about desensitizing and separating people out from each other, like between genocides, prisons, deaths, like whatever. And so the rebellion works because of its friendship, its loyalty, its human connection. And that is all symbolized within that hug at the end, that even though we're about to die, we accomplish something. I hug people that I am not romantically in love with. Like, my boss hugs me almost every day. It's a beautiful thing. Hi, Dan. Dan.
I also I also think some people are tied into this is the traditional formula for Hollywood is you have to have a leading man and you have to have a leading woman and they have to have a romance. Like it's very people. I think people are indoctrinated to that. They've been told that their whole lives. Like, okay, this is the formula. This is the way it is. And there are like independent movies that people are like, hey, wait a minute, this is different than what I'm used to. I'm used to the traditional Hollywood formula. So I think when people see Rogue One and they see that lens of it, they're thinking, oh, she has to be with somebody. Oh, so it's him. So he's the main person.
Yeah.
So I think that is interesting to think about. But what about K2SO? How is he bulletproof in Andor? And then as soon as you see him in Rogue One, blaster fire and he's gone. How do you explain that?
So I did a Reddit search because where else am I going to go? StarWars.com is increasingly unhelpful. And so I went to Reddit and somebody had the same question and somebody said plot armor, which is funny because it's deteriorating plot armor. Our friend Tim said too. And so but somebody said you have to think about Star Wars, like Star Wars blasters in terms of rounds, like because we don't have lasers, so we have so like different blasters have different like
strength.
Yeah, they have different strength. So some blasters are stronger than others, which is why some stormtroopers can survive some blaster hits and some can't. It just depends on, like, no different than somebody wearing Kevlar. Like some Kevlar will stop a bullet, some won't. And so that I think is just a simple explanation. Whatever Cassian's getting hit with by I can't believe it's not French resistance, the Norman resistance. They're just not good weapons because they're an underfunded, underprepared resistance. And so, but stormtroopers and death troopers and whatever else, they are prepared. So despite their terrible aim, they are prepared. So yeah, that's the simple answer.
It was interesting to see stormtroopers were kind of scary in the massacre. It's like, whoa, these are like a lot of times we think of stormtroopers as, oh, he bumped his head on the thing when he's coming in and they can't hit anything. They've, through various memes, like over the years, we've just been desensitized. But I think the original meaning of stormtroopers is supposed to be like, these are almost like the SWAT team, like the force that the galaxy is supposed to be under, like the tyranny of the Empire and the oppression. The stormtroopers are real, and you see that in the massacre. And the massacre itself, I think, might be the highest, like the crowning achievement of this season.
Mhm.
I just thought that was just very well done.
I think a stormtrooper. I mean, if you watch A New Hope, there's apart from the guy clunking his head, definitely by accident, and definitely thinking nobody was ever going to see it. You know, like
Yes.
that they're really efficient. Like, you know, Obi-Wan talks about them as being efficient. They kill
Right.
all the Jawas. They
Single file. Yeah.
right.
Right.
And they basically annihilate everybody on the Tantive 4. You know, they come in
Yeah.
and like nary a stormtrooper is hurt. Like they're barely taken down. And so I think their bad reputation comes mostly from that guy clunking his head. But then if you skip forward, it's really when they get taken out by Ewoks. That's
Yeah.
But most of the time, they're actually pretty efficient at what they do.
Except for the fact that they can't aim.
Yeah, but even Luke says that you can't see in the helmet. So like,
That's true.
consistent.
That's true. He also forgot he was wearing the helmet like 10 seconds later. Oh, the uniform.
Hey, that
He's such a
Yeah.
noob. Yeah.
Oh, this 30 pounds of plastic. I forgot about it. I forgot that I'm looking at you through it. Right. Yeah.
She's just so pretty. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who hasn't looked at their sister that way?
He doesn't know. It's Oedipus. He doesn't know. You can't blame him then. Later you could, for sure. Yeah. I just I want more. I think if that was Vactor's running thing from before, you know, like I want more, and I am really sad that I will not have more. Because there was a couple of things that this show did that we won't probably see again. One, all the real sets. So many sets. I loved them. Is so much realism. Referencing real life instead of Star Wars to make Star Wars come alive. I will miss that. And obviously, I mean, it'll do it again, but I think one more thing I will say about Lucasfilm is they actually really do listen to what people say. You know, to their own detriment sometimes.
Yeah.
See Rise of Skywalker, like is a perfect example. They listened to what too many people said, and it was a movie that exists now. But you know, but I do think that like people being like, wow, look at that, like you took an outside influence and you lensed it through Star Wars, which is good Star Wars. That's really which is good television, which is good science fiction, which is good fantasy, which is good anything. Like it's just they're just the lens to tell something that resonates with you on the inside. I'm not looking for, you don't even need necessarily, you don't need realism, you just need believability. Those are you need those are two different things.
That's right.
Yeah, you need verisimilitude. Verisimilitude. What is it?
Verisimilitude.
I just read something where okay. Tim, it was that comic that I recommended to you, the Crisis comic. The girl was saying that she was repeating that to herself over and over in that comic. I was like, wait a minute. I was just thinking about that word over and over. It was a comic I read earlier this morning. Yes.
Funny.
It's not haha funny, but funny. Yeah.
That was Dick Donner's like go-to sort of slogan for for Superman 78 was everything has to be reflect reality, verisimilitude.
Yes.
Right.
Any closing arguments, guys? Any closing thoughts?
I just really hope we can get as close to this bar as possible. Like I said, I don't know if even in our lifetimes we will see this level of quality again. I don't want to like overstate it. Our other buddy, Super Tim, that we talked to, I told him that this is in my top 5 TV shows of all time. And he was like, already? And I was like, yes, I believe this is one of the best TV shows ever made. And I just don't know if Star Wars can get out of their own way to come back here. Like it really is about the creatives. Like you look at Tony Gilroy and the success of letting him create and letting him tell his story and his vision and not trying to change it too much and not trying to get in the way of it and listening to the fans or listening to outside people and here's our notes and change this and do this. If they can just hire the right people and tell the right stories, then we can have something great again. But like I feel like they really just have to get out of their own way.
I agree.
There is a rumored leadership shakeup coming to Lucasfilm soon, with Kathy Kennedy likely retiring. So that we may see that happen.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because the farther and farther we get away from George, it's like, oh man, what is this going to turn into? Because that's a whole nother episode of Star Wars, what it was under George, and then what it's going to be after George, because it's going to be around. Star Wars is not going anywhere. So what is it going to be after he's gone, after he passes away? And I think Filoni is the closest that we have to that branch of tree of George Lucas, because he worked directly with him on Clone Wars. So
true, but the ideas of Filoni is also responsible for being self-referential to Star Wars. See Ahsoka. So and
that goes to your point of hiring people who are not referential to it and reverent of it and saying, oh, I grew up on Star Wars. This is like, I think J.J. Abrams is also a good example of, he loved Star Wars and he dreamed of it and wanted to make it growing up. And then we got Force Awakens and we got Rise of Skywalker. And that is it's you can't almost reach someone who doesn't know about Star Wars. Like you're going to know its existence. You're going to know about it growing up versus the people who grew up in the pre-time and didn't know about Star Wars. How much of that is going to influence you and get into your DNA? Because Tony Gilroy is kind of old. Like he's not of our generation. So most people have a good feeling from Star Wars coming up. I know there's some toxicity, but most people, it's going to be difficult to not have a little ounce of Star Wars in your DNA. So I'm really be interested to see what creatives come next.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying that George himself was not he didn't revere Star Wars himself.
Right.
Like, he was like, yeah, it's a laser sword, whatever. I don't remember characters' names or what they do or whatever. Like when he was hiring, I don't know if you've watched the second season of Light and Magic yet.
I need to watch that. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. The first episode, he talks about how he almost didn't hire any in-house Lucasfilm people to do concept art for Phantom Menace because he didn't want it looking like Star Wars. He said, we're making something totally new. Don't make Star Wars. Make something else. And that's how, so like you need that again. That's really,
that's the lesson.
That's the lesson. And it will upset people because it won't feel like Star Wars. It won't do this, but you can blend it. It is possible. My takeaway, my last thing is that Benjamin Bratt was an incredible Bail Organa. He was so good, and I wouldn't be upset if he kept doing the part, like if it came to it, because he's not Jimmy Smits, obviously, but he did a really good Bail. Like I totally bought into it. Like
I 100% I would agree. It's just because Jimmy Smits is still alive, it's like, oh man, I kind of feel bad.
That was it for me
to not have him here. And he's still kind of within the age. If he's like Mark Hamill and it's like, okay, you can't play young Luke, then it's a different story. But Bail, I feel like Jimmy Smits could still do it. So I feel bad. Like I really liked Benjamin Bratt, but I would feel bad if
he just wasn't available. Like he just couldn't do it. Right. It's just not like he didn't even want to. He did, and so, but like you have to. I did read an article with him where he was like, Tony said, "Is that we're going to introduce you in a very small way in the episode, so people will talk about it and get it out of their system, and then they will come back, and when you have something important to say, then they'll actually be listening to you instead of going, "Oh my God, is that?" Yeah. So smart, really smart.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, but I dug him. I thought he was great. Frank, final thought?
Yeah, I think this show is one of the best things about this show is the way that it brings together people who don't care for Star Wars because of the Tony Gilroy aspect of it, and that, like, people who don't typically go for Star Wars really, really go for this show. And I'm hopeful that it brings some people sort of closer to the fold, that maybe that sort of gets some people into the franchise and maybe draws them in for maybe they're coming for things that are not the reason I love Star Wars, but maybe they're being in the tent will give them appreciation for some of the things that I love, the same way that this is giving me appreciation for the things that they love that brought them to Andor in the first place. So that's I'll try to end on that note, a sort of a positive. Like, I like that it brings people together under one tent at a time when it's very easy to be divided. Like, people are like, whether they like Star Wars or not, are kind of all pretty much universally being like, this show, this is good. We should all more like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, Vactor, where can people find you?
If you're interested in Star Wars, I have an entire channel called Trust in the Force where I'm talking about Star Wars, and I've reviewed every block of Andor on my YouTube channel, and any new Star Wars stuff I'm going to be talking about over there. If you're into comic books and you like the Beer with Geeks, every month we're doing a This Month in Superman episode over on my comic book channel, This Comic Cooks. So those are the two places that you're going to find me the most online.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank, where can people find us?
Well, apart from our YouTube channel, you can find us at brewinggeeks.com. You can find us on any of the in the podcast apps. You can rate and review us there. Please head over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio to help us keep making the show. And yeah, I think that'll pretty much put a lid on things for today. Thank you, Mr. Vactor, for joining us. Always a pleasure. Love to see you.
Thank you very much.
Well, until next time, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cheers.